Welcome everyone to another episode of Fit Fam.
Today's a good one.
What are we talking about?
Talking about energy and why you might be feeling a lack of it.
Even if you think you're doing everything right.
Let's go.
Let's go. Miss Natural Olympia Hilary.
Doug the Formulator.
Here we are. And so, let's just jump right into it.
Okay.
We're tackling something that almost everyone listening probably has felt like, you think you're doing things right? You maybe got diet under control a little bit better, start to exercise, and you expect your energy to come up, and maybe it doesn't at all, or maybe it does a little bit, but you're like, man, I'm still lacking energy, and I think I'm doing everything right? And so
Yeah.
what are some of those factors?
Well, it's frustrating, right? Because when you think you're doing everything right and you're not, it's sometimes a hidden little stressor. Sometimes it's not as obvious as I'm drinking all of my water. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So the first thing we're going to talk about, which I just know you did this for me. I just know you did. But the first thing we're going to talk about is caffeine and adrenal fatigue, right?
All right. So we're going to break down different reasons that you might have low energy when you think you're doing everything right, and talk about them, what you could do to fix them. And this is a great place to start.
Yeah, this is a great place to start because most of the time, if you think of caffeine, it equals energy, period.
Right. And it's the opposite is true. Is caffeine really isn't energy. It borrows it from the body. In other words, it stimulates cortisol in the body. It stimulates adrenaline in the body. And it does it through the nervous system. And so it's actually putting stress on the system, and that's the energy you feel. So a caffeine energy really isn't a stable energy, right?
Well, yeah, and not only is it not a stable energy, it starts to take more and more and more caffeine to be able to feel the same effects, right?
And that's how come it's more of a stimulant to the nervous system versus a food to the nervous system to provide energy, is that it takes more and more and more. And then eventually the adrenal glands become extremely affected. And even though the American Medical Association and that still won't officially claim that there's such a thing as, adrenal fatigue or exhaustion, they kind of say it through a different route, but it's a huge deal. I think every holistic health professional in the world knows this and treats it, and it probably helps more people than any other condition.
Yeah, and you saying that right there helps me to just even solidify more why I love our holistic health professionals, because when I was suffering with severe adrenal fatigue, they fixed it and it was like that. They knew immediately and they knew exactly what to do, and truly I was healed within 24 to 48 hours for something that I thought was going to take weeks, if not months.
Because you thought it was a muscle
because I thought,
issue.
correct.
Right?
I thought it was like some huge issue.
Well, there's a thing called HPA axis dysregulation, which basically is a big long word to say, look, you put stress on the adrenal glands, cortisol, adrenaline, right? Where adrenal glands are going, that's where it comes from. So of course there's stress on there. So it's crazy to not, even admit that. And then over time, the adrenals say, hey, I've given you everything in those fight or flight times that you really needed. I don't have more to give. And that's when things happen. So what, I think people might know that, but what do they do?
So I also want to say how you might know that's occurring, other than like, oh, I'm tired all the time, is like the highs and the lows, like the spikes in energy and then the huge crashes, right? That's how you know your adrenals are quite fatigued. So here's some to-dos to fix the situation.
And these are based off of some great research that we did before this to see what's new and how you can help with this.
Yeah, I love these. And I love when we have actionable items. So 1, cut caffeine intake by 25 to 50% gradually. Gradually is key, right?
It is. And here's what's cool from that research is really cool. Let's say that you're taking more and more caffeine. You're like, oh, I have to have more caffeine to have energy, because that's what you think, right? You think, well, if I cut down caffeine, I'm going to have less energy. No, because if you're taking more caffeine in, and sometimes it's even making you tired, then it's just an overload on the system. It's like too much gas and it's flooded. You're like, more gas, more energy like with an engine? No, too much, all of a sudden it won't work. So if you cut it back to the right level, then guess what? All of a sudden you have a ton of energy. So don't think, oh, I got to cut my caffeine intake 25%, 50% and deal with these lows. Many times it's the exact opposite. You actually get more energy because you're not overloading, flooding the system.
I love that.
What else?
So no caffeine within 60 to 90 minutes of waking. It lets your cortisol rise naturally.
I've been teaching this since the 1990s. It drives me absolutely bonkers because of the coffee thing, right? You get up, have coffee, like, oh, I'm just not the same till I have coffee. And there's all these memes out there. Look, you've got to let your circadian cycles start to handle your energy influx and creation. What that means is you wake up, the sun comes up, right? Your body starts to regulate cortisol to create energy for the day for you to get the day done. The body knows you're going to want to get stuff done. And if you mess with that metabolism, you basically screwed up for the entire day and it's up, down, up, down, up, down. Let your body develop its energy. Now, adding B vitamins, adding niacin, adding, some healthy nutrients that get it going faster, if you would, like it's help you connect to that circadian cycle faster. Awesome stuff, but not caffeine, right? Not your coffees, any of that stuff. Like, stay away from that. That's probably the biggest thing that, in looking back, I'm like, I had someone today say, well, you never told me that before, that we used to teach at a high level that we haven't taught for a while.
Wow. Yeah, I love it when people say that to you and you're like, oh gosh, over and over again, I've taught this.
Yeah, that happened. We had 125 doctors on a call last night, and there was like two or three things. I'm like, okay, I've been teaching that for years, but there's some doctors on here that haven't heard it, and you
Yeah,
forget.
well, I think you forget too. Not everybody hears everything. You know what I mean?
That's
And
true.
so there can be things that fall through the cracks. Anyways, so if you are somebody that has been taking caffeine through, especially like liquids like coffee and that kind of thing, right in the morning, replace it with electrolytes and hydration first thing. I know that for me, I love to wake up and get my glutathione and my nano blue
Yep, that's
and and I just like to.
boom. And that's a great way to get energy because it provides energy, but it provides it by adding more electrons so that the body can make more ATP, right? Versus stimulating the nervous system and forcing it.
And I'm like, boom, I just got 8 ounces of water and just like that, start that
Boom.
hydration
And
goal.
so if you wake up and take something like Be Awake that has the natural B vitamins in it, and then something like glutathione that has the electrolytes, and if you want to do glutathione methylene blue, that is a great way to go about it. Is the electrolytes is the electrical minerals to get the charge going, right? That helps with the circadian cycle kicking in because it's got to go from one cycle to another. That's really cool.
Yeah, and then this one is cycling caffeine every 2 to 3 days off per week if possible. I think what I like about the first one and the last one, when it talks about cut caffeine by 25 to 50%, I know a lot of people that are like, if I go cold turkey, I am going to have the worst caffeine headache, right? Trying to come off of caffeine. So I like the concept of first reducing the amount of caffeine gradually that you take, and then working on this next one. And if you need to work on a day a week, right? A day and a half a week, then move it up to 2 days a week.
Much
Do this gradually as well.
Yeah, much better. Much better is have your body rely on its own system and then just use it as needed. And again, that's probably the most addictive compound there is out there that that we just addict ourselves to, right?
I would like to say too that caffeine has become something that kids have started to utilize earlier and earlier and earlier. It's not uncommon to see these young teenagers, and I'm talking 12, 13, 14-year-old kids walking around with monsters and two or three of them throughout the day. And not only are these kids really taxing their adrenal glands way before they should be, it's also causing all kinds of other dietary issues later in life. So
This is your nerves. You have nerves going through the whole body. And what happens is the nerve goes along a little while, then there's a break, and then the nerve continues. So you have this little break here, okay? And in that break, it's kind of like a circuit breaker so that you don't blow up, blow a fuse, blow your brain up and stuff. They have these breaks, and in that break, there has to be a reaction, and that reaction is a kind of a B vitamin choline reaction to keep the nerve flow. And you're overstimulating this with the caffeine. But what Hilary's talking about too, that's really huge, is not only do you have caffeine, but you're adding acid to the caffeine. So any type of a soda it's a soda, if it's carbonated with caffeine, that's the worst thing on the planet you can do because you have acid on top of caffeine. And what that does is the caffeine makes it fire more, and the acid messes up the currents. And sometimes I'll touch, and you can blow a fuse. Basically, it causes major issues with the brain. It causes problem with cognitive. The sooner you're going to get dementia, Alzheimer's, nerve issues, twitching issues later on, all caused from too much acid when you're younger, or even in 20s, 30s, 40s, and then you start feeling it. So if you're going to take caffeine, do not take it in a carbonated drink. Period.
Wow, that's such great information. And I think talking to your kids about, it's not just a no. No, you can't have energy drinks. No, you can't have soda, but especially energy drinks. Explain the process. Explain what's going on. It doesn't mean that they'll immediately be okay, but I think sometimes as our kids get older, if we give them like the true reason,
Right.
they'll be able to start reasoning better. Okay, so sorry, did you want one more thing?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, it's just that there's so much truth to that. Is why do the top professional athletes in every sport don't drink carbonated energy drinks before they do their sport, right? Because we know that the energy you get is not a true energy, a balanced energy, calm, focused, and then you have energy, but you can do your job better. You do it worse. They gave, um, what is it? They gave spiders. It's a cool spider study. Check it out. Caffeine. And the group that had the caffeine, their webs were, and the group that didn't have caffeine, it was perfect web, right? And so again, caffeine energy is different than true energy. Okay.
Yeah, we want focused, lasting energy. Okay, so the next thing that could be robbing your energy is poor digestion.
My favorite.
Don't dance. So people don't realize that digestion is one of the most energy demanding processes in the body. We talked about this yesterday on the podcast. That
Last week.
Yeah, last week. The one we, okay. Yeah. Anyways, and so your body makes digestion a priority. Once you eat, your body's ending just about everything else so that it can get digestion going.
Boom. That's a great way to put it. And because of that, it drains your energy, right? Every system in the body is drained that isn't needed to keep you alive to digest your food. So the only thing that's not hugely is diverted from is the brain, but the blood flow is, which then kind of hurts the brain too, right?
Right.
And that's why, you talk about food coma, and it's a real deal. So pretty simple.
Yeah.
Digest your food, have more energy.
Yeah, because undigested food is leading to bloating. It's leading to heaviness. It's leading to gas,
Digestion.
to brain fog. And then, of course, overall lack of energy. And let's remember, why is that? It's because when we eat cooked and processed foods, they're void of the enzymes. So if you're going to eat a cooked or processed food meal, you need to add back the enzymes. Typically, if you have an all raw meal, you will feel much less tired after eating it because it's able to help digest, and there's not so much stress on the body when it's time to
Yeah. And
digest your
so
food.
if you want more information on it, go to the week previous to this podcast, because we go in deep. And so the only thing I'll say on that, and you can do some to-dos with it, but the only thing additional I'll say to it is think about if you got hired somewhere that was like a dream job and they expected you to do things to make a difference. So for me, when I got hired in the NBA with the Phoenix Suns, they're like, what can you do for me? Right? So what's the first thing I did in the entire, being the first nutrition MBA, was the very first thing I did above everything else is I took cooked food away from the locker room 2 hours before games, and I added raw food. You can only eat raw food 2 hours before games. Why? Because they had more energy during the game without doing anything else, because the food had enzymes in it and they weren't making their digestive system to do the work, which pulls blood from the muscles. And so injuries went down, energy went up immediately. Super important.
I love that. So let's go to some to-dos that we can implement right away. Slow down while eating. Chew your food. This is every time I give my grandkids something, I say chew, chew, chew. Chew, chew, chew.
Chew, chew, chew. Chew, chew.
Avoid drinking. Oh, this one's a good one. That, you used to hear this and there was some controversy around it. Avoid drinking a lot of liquids while you're eating.
Yeah, you're just diluting the enzymes.
Okay.
You want some, but not a ton.
This says on our paper, consider digestive enzymes. Don't consider them. Get yourself some digestive enzymes. They are critical.
Numero
Critical.
uno.
Eat simpler meals And actually, I love this one. What's so funny about our household is the more rich or involved a meal that I make is, the less likely this guy likes it. Okay. And he eats
I
way
like it. You don't need much.
he eats way less. However, if I make a really simple meal that has a lot of raw foods in it, if I make a large salad or a bowl that has, all the raw things, the lettuces, the cabbage, the cucumber, the tomato, the avocado,
Mm,
he eats like the whole thing.
much
So,
faster.
and it's so much easier, right? So sometimes it's about
Mhm.
less is more. And then support your gut health.
Dude, that's huge because we talk about taking enzymes, and in our digestive meal, we do have some probiotics, but it's only probiotics to help the food get into the system. If you don't eat fermented foods, kimchi,
We need to do
things like
better.
that,
We've slacked
we
this
stick a
last
little
little bit, huh?
yeah, then you need to add back probiotics supplementally in your diet.
Okay, this next one, blood sugar
Ooh,
instability.
I
So
like this.
this one is massive, and this is where we're talking about blood sugar swings,
Mhm.
which also can be related to your mood swings. Go ahead.
I never,
Go ahead. What do you have to say?
experienced that in our
Please.
household.
Please continue.
It's a huge deal. And we make fun of it because sometimes we think it's a larger deal for women than men. It's not true necessarily. It's just that because it can affect the hormone levels and testosterone and estrogen in women, it's a different mechanism and ratio. It's manifested faster and easier in women from an anxiety standpoint that sometimes gets, put out there.
Right.
But it's still affecting the men in the same way. A lot of times how they express it, though, is different because of the way it's working on the hormone system. But the bottom line is this, is look, you want to be able to keep your blood sugar levels as even as possible. And all the research studies was really cool because when
Could you
we-
please sit up, sir?
when I was working in the NBA, we had a coalition with a lot of other sports and professional sports. And there was a group, National Basketball Conditioning Coach Association. We associate with all these other sports. And the question was, what is the number one factor for consistent high performance? Because if you're a pro athlete, you're good, right? It was like one thing the owner of the Sun said, like, you're not going to make my players better. Really? I just want you to make them good longer, like more consistently, right?
Yeah.
And so we had this huge study, and what we came down to, there's a bunch of things, but number one was, can we keep blood sugar regulated throughout the event? Like even golf, 3 hours, 4 hours. And if we can, the more the blood sugar is regulated, the more consistent the performance is. And that's
I love
true
that.
during the day with all of us, with our spouses, with work and all that.
Yeah, and so I think sometimes this one can be misunderstood because we can be like, no, I'm eating every few hours, I'll have, and it's this super healthy snack. But sometimes our healthy snacks aren't balanced enough.
Yeah, they're high glycemic.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah,
And
we'll
so,
come up with some to-dos with that one. So this one's all about the roller coaster all day long with blood
Yeah.
sugar instability.
so here's a normal day. A normal day is people will have something for breakfast that spikes blood sugar, right? A pastry, a donut, most cereals, everything like that will spike blood sugar. Okay, so we get this high, and then the body will release insulin to bring the blood sugar down, and we have a low. And our answer, go to get your first monster for the day, the Red Bull or whatever it might be, or some other sugar food, go back up. And then through the day, that's all you're doing is you're managing blood sugar, and you're doing it with sugary white flour items through the day, sodas. And that is absolutely the worst way to have a stable energy level throughout the day, is spiking blood sugar. That's why breakfast, you're better off not eating breakfast. And I'm a for breakfast guy. If it's going to have a lot of sugar in it, like you really, really are better off. But you're much better off having good low glycemic carbohydrate, some good protein for breakfast, and just start off stable. And through the day, you go from there.
I love that. So what we can do to maintain blood sugar stability through the day is pair our carbs with proteins and fats.
Yep.
So, when you're going for that higher glycemic fruit in the day, go ahead and throw some raw almonds in there, or, a
Veggie. Something.
veggie. Yeah. Okay. Healthy protein shake. Okay. And then the next one, let's add fiber to every meal, vegetables, seeds. What else?
what's crazy is we just went through 268 markers right before you came, and we were going through and we're adding different formulas for those blood markers and that through the whole thing. And it was amazing how many times the recommendation was our fiber GLP-1 powder. And you'd much better getting fiber from your vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, and that. But there you can. It had an old food fiber back in to get fiber because fiber is critical for blood sugar. If you want to fix this blood sugar spike thing, add fiber to your diet. If you need to, as you're improving your diet, get the fiber GLP-1s, a fermented fiber, and that just that alone. Like if you just started taking an extra, it's 3 grams, a small scoop, a couple of those, throughout the day, midday and mid-afternoon, huge difference.
I love that. Avoid liquid sugars, even healthy ones, like a glass of orange juice. Avoid liquid sugars. And why is that?
Well, it's because there's no fiber in them. And so, like, I'll go back to, yes, go ahead and have orange juice if it is freshly squeezed with the pulp and you get the fiber in it. And the thing is it's pulling the fiber out is what most juice is, because we're a big fan of juice if it's fresh raw, but it needs to have fiber in it, or add the fiber back.
Okay, perfect. Focus on low to moderate glycemic foods, and that's easy. That's an easy one because you can always combine macronutrients to help with the glycemic index in something. Correct?
Right.
Um,
Want to explain the glycemic index? Should we do that?
I'll let you explain the glycemic index, but I will say, correct me if I'm wrong, it is better if you're going to have a sweet treat to have it paired with a healthy meal than to have it all on its own with nothing else. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Here's what the glycemic index is. The glycemic index is studies done with every food known as to how fast your blood sugar raises when you eat that food. Okay, how fast it raises. Not that it goes up, but how fast. And higher glycemic foods are the foods you want to stay away from, or at least pair with low glycemic foods. Add the fiber back, like with the juice or something like that. Okay. And so let's play a game really quick. Let's say that I have 3 high glycemic foods here. Okay.
Okay.
So believe it or not, grapes is high glycemic. So if
Right.
you have carrots or something with it, right? Or
Right.
another fruit. Grapes,
Mm-hmm.
a piece of white bread,
Mm-hmm.
and over here you have just tablespoons of sugar.
Yep.
Table sugar.
Yeah.
Which one raises blood sugar the least?
The least?
The lowest glycemic. So a rating of 100 being the highest, being not good,
I think the one that raises it the most is the bread.
the bread. And 99% of the people will say the sugar, because sugar raises blood sugar. No, actually, white bread does more. White flour is the absolute worst thing you can do for this situation, for blood sugar and everything else. Pastries, white flour, stay away from them, right? And then the second would be the table sugar. And third would be the fruit, because the fruit has the nutrients in it, has some fiber in it.
Yeah, at least there is some nutrient density there. Okay, one last thing. Don't snack constantly. Let insulin come down. This one is especially if you're constantly snacking on processed foods, or he's going to say something else.
Yeah, the worst thing you can do, worst thing you can do for the blood sugar, the worst, is to have lifesavers, mints. It's a constant flow of sugar the whole time it's in your mouth. The worst thing you can do. Don't do it. And why not have a constant flow of something that regulates blood sugar? You can still find some that are stevia based or things like that. I'm just saying.
Okay.
And so what about for athletes and people that eat 6 meals a day, right? Then eat 6 meals a day. Don't eat between. So even if your meal spacing is shorter, don't snack in between and let your
What
body
we're saying is just
regulate
allow your body to regulate its insulin
and digestion.
Whoop, whoop. Okay. The next one we're talking about is micronutrient deficiencies. I love how all of these are just kind of silent ones that blood sugar is a little different, but like the caffeine and this one, it's like, what? It's because of my micronutrients. So get us started.
Macronutrients, proteins, carbs, fat, micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, enzymes, probiotics, fatty acids, herbs, things like that. Okay, so deficiencies, chromium is a trace mineral, something you need very little of it, but it helps regulate blood sugar. Vanadium, something you need very, very, very little of it, helps to regulate blood sugar in the body. Magnesium, vitamin B, vitamin D, all of these things help regulate blood sugar, and your blood sugar and insulin isn't regulated properly or functioning properly without these micronutrients. And so just getting a custom pack, male or female, or better yet, the blood work through Nutrients RX, just get that in. And just that alone, even though you're not like, I'm not taking this specific for blood sugar, it helps regulate blood sugar.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Anything else you want to say from that?
That's pretty simple.
That it is pretty simple. Oh, and obviously we've talked about this over and over and over again. Our food supply now is void a lot of the micronutrients that it used to contain. So it's easy to have a micronutrient imbalance if you're not taking supplements.
Every person, 100% of every single person in the United States has a micronutrient deficiency if they don't take a supplement. That's proven.
Okay.
Is what it is.
So what can we do? We can prioritize whole nutrient dense foods. Number one. Anything?
I mean, just stay away from processed foods.
Okay. So the next one is utilize high quality bioavailable supplements. So whole food supplements. Yep.
One thing on the food situation too that's interesting is a lot of people say, well, I drink Diet Coke. I drink, Diet Pepsi. I drink Diet Dr. Pepper. Synthetic and chemically based sugars, sucralose, aspartame, right? Mainly, but any of those in that family are worse than sugar because they actually will tell the body that it's not getting enough and it craves more and more and more. And then it really dysregulates your hormones and your insulin sensitivity. It totally destroys insulin sensitivity. And what that means is your body needs more insulin to get the same work. Instead of one little molecule of insulin, needs 10 to get your blood sugar regulated. And that's what leads to diabetes. So people, if you're going to have a sugar, once in a while, do the regular stuff. Have the Mexican Coke. Have that. Although, again, I'm really not a big fan of
full sugar soda if you're going to have it.
If you're going to, but don't
have it by itself either.
And just don't do it very often.
Just don't do it. Okay. And then focus on minerals such as magnesium and trace minerals. You already touched on that. And hydrate properly. Electrolytes matter.
Glutathione wafer with electrolytes is, pretty much in our life just as important on a daily as taking the enzymes.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Our next one is chronic low-level inflammation. And this one is the real silent one.
It is. It's low-grade inflammation, not when you're inflamed or sick or anything. Low-grade inflammation is known in the industry as a silent killer because if you don't take care of low-grade inflammation, it'll eventually wear the tissues down that then they become toxic or cancerous. So low-grade inflammation also takes away your energy because it's just this low dose. You don't feel like, oh, it took all my energy away, but it's constant to where you think everything, this is normal, but it's not. It's actually at a low level because you have this constant low-level inflammation.
Yeah, it can be from food sensitivities. It can be from toxins. It can be from poor gut health.
Yeah. And like we say, your white blood cells, your immune system, okay, it takes a ton of energy to make them. And if the body's constantly making them because you have low-grade inflammation, you're constantly tired. And you don't want the body to make extra white blood cells ever because you will lose energy. It's only in the case of like, oh, if we don't go kill this bacteria, we're going to die. And the body makes them. But you don't want them being made all the time.
So it's basically that your immune system is working overtime.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So so even if you're not sick, you're still feeling tired because your immune system is working. Okay. Got it. So here are some to-dos. Identify and remove inflammatory foods. You should be pretty aware of inflammatory foods because you will feel it typically after you've eaten it.
Acid.
Okay. So acid is one.
Acid, anything with acid in it. Okay. Sugar turns into acid. Carbonic acid, which is in black teas, coffees, sodas, alcohol. Acid is the biggest creation of inflammation in the body. Remember, sugar is a part of that. So if you're sucking on sugar all day, constant chronic inflammation.
I've done better. Guys, always point his finger at me. Improve your gut health. This is what did you just do?
I pointed my eyes. I didn't point my finger. I didn't go bam. I went.
He's always pointing me out. Okay, improve your gut health. This is one that I'm going to focus on for the next few months. I really feel like I could do a whole new
Yeah,
gut
I think
reset.
we both could. I say it's
Yeah.
one area that we get refocused on.
Yeah, I'd like
like
that. Reduce processed foods and seed oils.
Mm.
This one's good.
Processed
intake.
foods and just processed foods in general cause inflammation because they don't digest easy in the body.
Okay, and support detox pathways, hydration, sweating, minerals. I tell you, sometimes my food gets a little bit out of control, but the fact that I make sure I am sweating each day is probably a pretty big savior for me.
We like sweating. Yeah, so I think absolutely that with all the new research out on the saunas and that the hotter the better is that what toxins and that you have, get them out, get them out, get them out. So
Yeah.
really good. I like
Okay,
that.
cool.
So look, if you're sitting there thinking, this is me, that yes, I do have low energy at times, I don't know why and all that. The good news is it isn't random. It is a widespread epidemic around this. We hear it all the time. In fact,
Yeah.
many people come to us just for energy.
Absolutely. And your body's always giving you feedback, right? So it's just understanding what it's trying to tell you. In fact, you know what's interesting about this podcast? You put this one together today. Somebody reached out to me today. Hannah reached out to me today. I've got to get my blood done. I'm exhausted all the time. So, anyways.
And a cool little quote is energy isn't something you chase. And usually we chase energy. We chase energy. What can I take? What can I do? Get more energy in that. It's something you build. If you build that foundation with the right nutrients, bringing in the food that aren't high glycemic, that are not processed, the sugars all day long, entering your system, then you're building your energy system. You're building the batteries. And that's really the key. Think about building versus chasing.
Yeah. And when you fix the root causes of why you feel so exhausted, your body will naturally start producing energy again. So
I love that. So don't push harder, just do things smarter and apply some of these. Would love to hear in the comments, what you've done from this podcast to make the little tweaks and changes that provide more energy to you. I mean, actually, when you all comment and even tell people, whether you comment, on our YouTube or wherever it is that you watched or heard us, at least share with a friend in that, because when people hear it from you versus, they're sitting there from the podcast, but you actually took it and applied it, you're actually more effective than what we do. So please do that and help people with that constant energy. There's nothing better than a good flow of energy through the day and being present wherever you're at.
absolutely. And don't feel overwhelmed. Pick one of these. Look at the different topics that we had. So we had caffeine. Right? And adrenal function. We went into from caffeine to
Cooked foods.
So digestion, right? Into
micronutrient deficiency.
Okay.
And then into blood sugar. That it?
I think those were the 4.
And the inflammation.
5. So pick one. Pick one that you think could actually be robbing you of the energy that you need every day, and start just doing some of the little takeaways and see if you don't feel better.
As always, this is Miss Natural Olympia Hilary.
And this guy right here is Doug the Formulator.
Stay hungry, keep chewing. We're going to go race jet cars and go on a rock and roll cruise before the next one. Boop, boop.
Pray for me.
See ya.